Hello everyone, today I am making a special episode on cryptocurrency. So the reason I want to make a special episode on cryptocurrency today, in addition to the daily crypto and stock market update, is because I've been searching, the keywords on different search engines for cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, on YouTube, on Google, and I found something that's very interesting. So let's take a look. So first, if you look at Google Trends for Bitcoin, you can see that the interest over time is basically flat right now. Obviously, back in 2017, we have reached this crazy euphoric euphoric point where the Bitcoin was gaining a huge amount of interest because Bitcoin price action was going basically to 20,000, 30,000, and everyone was just fear of missing out, and that's what we got in 2017. But as the Bitcoin bubble went bust, we have basically a dying trend, and now the trend is basically flat, and it's been almost since December 2017. It's been more than 2 years, actually. It's been more than 2 years. It's almost 2.5 years since the peak of the Bitcoin bubble. So let's take a look at Ethereum, similar stuff. We had a lot of interest in January and December 2017, and now the interests have died down. We still have a bit more interest than before right now, but it's pretty much the same as the average, which is around the value, which is around 10. That's the interest over time, which is measurement. Let's take a look at the generic search term cryptocurrency. So everything I'm looking at is worldwide in the last 5 years. You can see that cryptocurrency, not many people are searching for it. The trend is also have died down. It's been flat for the last 2 years. So when I search for Bitcoin on YouTube these days, I would say the negative videos and positive videos on YouTube are about 50-50, which is pretty bearish for Bitcoin, because usually when I search for cryptocurrency or Bitcoin on YouTube, I remember even before the Bitcoin halving, all these videos are pretty overwhelmingly positive. So I follow a lot of YouTubers on YouTube, and you can see that what I see is that a lot of these YouTubers are pretty bearish these days, at least in the short term. You can see this guy, I'm expecting a major Bitcoin crash this week. You can have this guy is obviously got some great news, but then this one is also a bit bearish. I saw this. There was one of the very popular YouTuber. I think it would be Chico on Crypto, and let me find this guy. So his recent video is also pretty bearish. He is shorting the Bitcoin, that there's gonna be a dip that he believes because something called minor purge. So let me just show you here. He's talking about the minor purges because some of the Chinese miners, as you guys all know, the Bitcoin miners, about 60% the mining powers in the world are located in China. In particular, they're located in the two provinces in China. They are a bit inland, as he described here. They are from Sichuan and Xinjiang province. So where these are, let me show you the map here. So the Xinjiang province here and Sichuan province here. So they are actually not along the sea or near the ocean. They are actually a bit inwards towards the west side of China. So they are pretty inside. The reason these miners are in these two provinces is actually because So I actually look up for these things. I'm doing Google Translate here so you guys can read that these provinces actually have a lot of rivers. They are I think these two provinces are the two origins of two largest rivers in China. So what happened is these two provinces have a lot of hydroelectric dam, right? So these dams are obviously can generate a lot of electricity. The problem with these provinces, these dams, a lot of these dams, they don't have, they actually output more electricity than 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 the actual demand. So a lot of electricity actually gone wasted from these dams. So what happened is that these Bitcoin miners basically went in there and set up their mining facilities in these internal provinces, and then they just captured that excess electricity, which was going to go waste anyway. So the government actually supports that because they're paying for electricity, which would have just gone waste, right? And so this is one of the journal that's going to one of the Bitcoin mining operation in the Xinjiang province. So the Xinjiang province here, you can see that these pictures. So this Bitcoin mining operation is called Hashbox. And you can see that this is literally in the kind of middle of nowhere. You have to drive through all these really treacherous mountain regions. Pretty difficult to drive, and the altitude of that area is about 3,100 meters. That's like, I don't know, like 31,000 feet, maybe. I think you got timed that by 30, so that's about 9,000 feet, pretty high above the sea level. So you would have high altitude sickness when you go to this altitude, and so they drive, and what happened is they found this mining operation in a pretty remote areas in the mountain, right? As you can see that. But the thing is, because this mining operation is being built next to the dam, and so it is using probably one of the cheapest, least expensive electricity source in the world. Okay, so if you guys are interested, you guys can just search for it, for this article. And it's very interesting. I'm going to post the link down the video, by the way, and you can see that. So right now, the government actually most governments in China in these kind of situation, because they're selling electricity which would have gone to waste to these miners, is a win-win situation, right? And what happened is some of the Sichuan county development, they are reforming some of the Bitcoin miners because they are sucking too much electricity, and plus a lot of the Chinese region are actually being developed over time, right? So the economy of China actually develops really quickly. So some of the regions, maybe 5 years ago, they don't need that much electricity, but now they do. Because economic development, and they're building better infrastructure, so they are able to connect these dams to the national electricity grid in a more efficient manner. So they are able to sell the electricity to the national grid, which is called a state grid. That's the Chinese national grid. So these electricity generator, these hydroelectric companies, they probably don't need these miners anymore. And plus, all these mining activities are actually in the gray area because the Chinese government, they're pretty, they don't want these kind of cryptocurrency stuff going on, because not because they don't support cryptocurrency, they don't support things like some of the companies using Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a way to scam investors, which is very common in China. So some people that were talking about mining, and they try to sell the idea to investors, and these investors are usually uneducated. They're not educated investors like us. So they will sell some of the ideas to investors about mining, about the mines, all that stuff. They try to raise a lot of money to the mine for these mining operations, more than they ever need. And it turns out once they raise so much money for these operations, they just disappear, or they issue some sort of token to these investors to scam them, right? And this happens very often in China. So the reason the government they don't want such thing going on is because there has been so many incidents of these kind of scenarios. And what happens is the people who got scammed, these educated investors, they got no one to turn to, right? They couldn't catch these criminals because there are so many of them, and China is a big place. So what happens? They just turn to the government, and they're just causing a lot of trouble to the government through legal enforcement. And because the population of China is huge, when you have even 1,000 people got scammed, imagine 1,000 people, protesting in front of your government building about a scam. Protesting actually does happen in China in these scenarios. The protest against the government doesn't happen, against government policy doesn't happen, but the protest against scams, or you lose money, or you got murdered and stuff like that, they do happen, and it's perfectly legal. People do that all the time. So they do create a lot of social and management issues for the government. Okay, and the government can't arrest them because this is like a financial crime. They can't arrest people protesting for financial crime. That's just stupid, right? They just can't do that. They don't have reason to do it. And that's causing a lot of headaches for these policymakers. So that's why they want to just wind down all these cryptocurrency related business altogether. And obviously these miners are it's a win-win for this government, but they still want to wind them down because they just don't want all this trouble anymore, right? They can sell that electricity to someone else now because these generators have been the infrastructure is in place now in 2020, and now they can sell that to the grid, to the state grid, to the electricity grid. Okay, so this is the obviously bearish scenario he talked about here, that we have a dip coming soon because all these miners, they have to sell some of their assets so they can cover the cost of moving to somewhere else, right? So imagine an operation like this needs to be shut down. By the way, this operation is actually not in Sichuan province. It's in this looks to me is in the Uyghur province, not Uyghur province. So the Tibet actually is in Tibet. This is in Tibet. This looks like it's Tibet. I've been to the Mount Everest, so I do recognize these kind of structures, these temples. Yeah, I've been to Mount Everest, by the way. So this is probably in Tibet. So again, Tibet is next to Sichuan, so they can just move to Tibet. But moving such a huge facility, this mining operation probably requires a lot of money. So these facilities, in order to raise them proper financially viable to move, they probably have to sell some of their Bitcoin holdings to the public market to raise some money. Or they have to raise the money to fund their moving costs, right? Which I don't think that's an issue. This scenario that he talked about the miners in Sichuan. First of all, the Sichuan mining power. Most of these kind of scenarios happening in Sichuan. The forced moving, a shutdown of the cryptocurrency mining operations is in Sichuan province. They only account for 10% of the hash rate. 10% of mining power in China. So that's actually a much smaller group. And so I don't think even all these miners are trying to sell their cryptocurrency holdings or Bitcoin holdings is not going to have a huge impact on the market. And plus, I just don't think the impact is going to be huge for the market. I just have a different opinion to this guy. And what I'm more concerned about is that the news these days are pretty bearish. Like if you do a search on Bitcoin, you can see that the news are not very bullish. Usually when the news are pretty bearish, they are you should do the opposite in the cryptocurrency market. I can tell from my experience that when the cryptocurrency market is actually very bearish, it's actually a good time to hold on to your positions. Yeah, and what else? Okay, let's take a look at the chart of Bitcoin right now. You can see that majority of that volume since the bottom that we should interim bottom in 2018 2019, majority of the volume is actually around the 3800 level. That's where the whales are accumulating around this level. You can see that it's pretty clear, and we had a first accumulation around this area, right? Think about the logic here. Think about from a perspective of a whale. So I have a couple $1 billion under management. I'm bullish in Bitcoin. I want to imagine I'm a whale, right? So I have billions of dollars. I can buy these. I can accumulate these. I probably have accumulated here because this bottom can be made with whales' financial power, right? So the people saying that we catch the bottom, like for us, we have to catch the bottom. We have to guess where the bottom is. But for the whales, they have actually enough buying power to form this bottom. So they have the advantage of cornering the market. They have the advantage of making a bottom in a market. So these bottoms, they did not try to catch it, right? They are making it. These whales have made this particular bottom here in 2019. And these whales have basically did a shakedown in March 2020. So they used the coronavirus and they pushed down the price drastically in a very short period of time, in only like 10 days, okay, actually 20 days. They pushed the price down more than, at the bottom, more than 63%, right? More than 65%, and they were able to accumulate all the way down. But the thing is, you can see that this, if there's no buying power, if the market is still weak, right, you would have a different scenario when the whale push down this price here. So the whales would have more time to accumulate this area. So we would see something like this. If the Bitcoin price, the supply and demand scenario is very weak. So when the whales push down this price, a lot of people got, especially people with leverage, they have been wiped out. So they're forced to sell. That's why the price went down really quickly, right, at this level. That's when a lot of people's stop loss got hit or their account got liquidated. Forced liquidation, margin calls. That's the worst thing can possibly happen to you. And you can see the price actually came back now. So, but these guys got margin calls that wiped out. But if we have a consistent bearish selling power or consistent supply, we will see something like this, right? The price come down, then we also have more time to accumulate this area. But what we actually got after March is that the price basically went up, right? We had a V-shaped recovery. So that tells us that in this market, remember the whales are not just a single group of person, it's not a single person or a single entity. There are many whales in the market, right? So all these whales are actually competing for this level, and there are so much demand at this level because all the whales know that everyone's accumulating. It's obvious here. So there is so much demand at this level. The whales actually, there's so much demand, the prices went back up in a V-shaped recovery. V-shaped recovery, right? Basically, that's what we had. And now we are basically stuck at this particular level again. As you can see here, this is where a lot of volume have happened, a lot of price action have happened and resulted in almost nothing so far. But I think that because this is a demonstration of how eager the whales are at this level. I just don't think we're going to have another dip down to a double bottom. I actually think very likely that this was the shakeout, and we are going a lot higher in the next month or two. Probably by July, we're gonna have a huge rally. And you can see that in the past, the Bitcoin rally from our current level of 8,000 in 2017 in just how many days? Let's take a look. In just 18 days, 19 days. So when a huge price move happens, it only takes, if we're going the same velocity, so 20 days from this level, so something like this could happen when the accumulation is complete, when there's a sudden shortage in the market, and it only takes 20 days to make a move like this, and this is what's the percentage move here? This is about the 128%, 123%, so two-time move, right? This is an increase by 123%, so you're talking about 223% move, okay? So you're gonna be making your money times 2.23, right? So it's 123% return, and that's gonna happen. That could happen within 25 days, 20 days. Okay, and these kind of vertical moves is very common in the Bitcoin market. After accumulation happens, you can see that these moves are very vertical. That's pretty common in the Bitcoin market. I don't think that if we get this kind of scenario here, that we're going for the all-time high, which is very logical. The reason is, right now we're half of all-time high, right? We're at 8,000. All-time high is about 20,000, right? And it's very logical because the price right now is able to maintain at the $10,000 level, and just double that is highly likely that we're probably going to test the all-time high. But once we test all-time high, I don't think the Bitcoin can actually hold on to this level. I don't think we're going much higher. We're only like 1x away, 2x away from all-time high, right? So this move is probably going to happen in the next month or two. It's very likely. And once we reach all-time high, I think we're just probably going to consolidate this level. If we do consolidate, we have to worry about that later. We just need to worry about that later, right? We don't need to worry about now. Now is to making sure you hold on to your position, right? Or you can maybe buy a little bit more on dip if you didn't really if you don't think your position is large enough for these opportunities, based on your risk appetite. And once we reach all-time high, if we consolidate, I think we're probably gonna go back and dip, then try to break the all-time high, because there are a lot of selling pressures in this area. Another thing is that Bitcoin halving have happened, right? Bitcoin halving have happened. So the supply of Bitcoin has been reduced dramatically by 50%. And all these miners, for their business to be viable, their revenue has been cut down by 50% overnight. And it just makes sense for the price to go back to 20,000 so they can make the same revenue as the price when it's 10,000, right? Which makes sense. And so the miners are interested in keeping the price to 20,000 so they can break even on their revenue. They can have the same revenue as before. And I think that's going to happen very quick. So I don't think the miners are going to dump. I think the miners are actually going to get together. These whales are going to get together, and they are going to pump the market to 20,000. They're going to try to do that so that they can break even on their revenue. They can break even on their mining operations. That's actually more logical than this thing goes down to 33,000 again. So nobody's making money, right? That doesn't make any sense. The whales are gonna pump to 20,000, and everyone's gonna be happy. The miners can make a revenue. They can break even, not break even. You can make the same profit as they were at 10,000, which is the equilibrium level, as you can see here. And also, the whales are happy. They can dump some of their Bitcoin, long-term Bitcoin holdings. So everyone's happy at this level. The whales, the miners, right? All the players are happy. What's the point of going back to 3,000? Think about it. What's the point of going back to 3,000 for these guys? There's no reason. I mean, if there's a point of going back to 3,000, we would have maintained this level from March 13th. Well, we would have gone flat, but we didn't. We had a V-shaped recovery. So this basically invalidates all these guys' bearish thesis, saying that we're gonna go back again. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. So that's all I want to say. You have to look at the market. You have to think about the logic. Think about from a perspective of a huge player, from a large player's perspective, right? Imagine you have billions of dollars. How are you playing in this market, right? What are you thinking? Imagine. That's the stuff that you need to train your mind to think. And that's all I want to say today about the cryptocurrency market. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the like button. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.